Tonight, Biden's tardy invitation for a state visit to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu amidst Israel's human rights abuses, and Russia's latest drone attacks, mass revenge for Crimea bridge explosion. We cover stories about stabbing of a Muslim woman and demands for investigation, Canada's need for more immigrants, and remembering the legacy of Nelson Mandela. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Catherine Bullock. President Joe Biden has extended a tardy invitation to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for an official visit to the United States later this year. The invitation was delayed due to several concerns. One is about Netanyahu's planned judicial overhaul. Another is about Israel's actions in the West Bank and its authorization of illegal settler outposts. The invitation was also delayed because of anti-Palestinian comments from a member of Netanyahu's cabinet. These issues drew criticism from US officials, including Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, during his visit to Israel in March. Biden finally invited Netanyahu during a phone call between the two leaders before Israeli President Isaac Herzog's upcoming visit to Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, the US House of Representatives and Senate have invited President Herzog to address a joint meeting of Congress tomorrow. Some members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus have indicated that they might not attend the event. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is boycotting Herzog's address. She has posted a Twitter invitation for all those who, quote, stand for human rights to join her. During their conversation, Biden and Netanyahu discussed efforts to counter Iran's nuclear program. They also discussed the need for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and bolster security in the West Bank. The United Nations Command says a US citizen who yesterday crossed the military border into North Korea from South Korea did so without authorization. Anonymous US officials have confirmed the man was a US soldier. They believe he has been detained in North Korea, but further details remain undisclosed. The incident occurred during a tour of the joint security area, including Panmunjom in the demilitarized zone between South and North Korea. The UN command overseeing the demilitarized zone since the 1953 armistice has since confirmed the unauthorized crossing. It is now working with North Korea's People's Army for resolution. North Korea's state media has not reported the incident. Both the US State Department and South Korea's Defense Ministry have yet to comment. Panmunjom has over the years been a site of occasional violence and peace talks. The State Department bans US nationals from entering North Korea due to risks of arrest and long-term detention. Previously, a US national died in 2017, soon after his release from a North Korea prison. Border crossings into North Korea are rare. On the contrary, around 30,000 North Koreans have crossed into South Korea to escape oppression and economic difficulties. This most recent border crossing incident has occurred in the midst of high tension due to North Korea's missile tests that have been ongoing since last year. In response to the tests, today, the US sent a nuclear-armed submarine to South Korea for the first time in 40 years. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia has launched air attacks using drones and maybe ballistic missiles on targets in southern and eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian army sent a message using the Telegram app early this morning that the southern port of Odessa and other areas were under attack. There was a fire outbreak in the port of Mykolaiv. Video footage on social media allegedly shows Iranian-made Shahed drones attacking regions in the Mykolaiv region. So far, there is no confirmation of the footage's authenticity. The Russian drone attacks were repelled by the air defense systems in the Odessa region. There were air raids from multiple Ukrainian regions for several hours before being called off in the early morning. Hours before the attack in southern Ukraine, Russia had suspended a deal that allowed exports of Ukrainian grain from Black Sea ports. Russia's invasion last year had previously blocked Ukraine's Black Sea ports. An agreement made last year in July allowed for critical grain exports from Ukraine. Russia declined to extend the grain deal yesterday, citing an unfulfilled agreement related to the export of Russian food and fertilizers. On the same day, there was an attack on a Russian-built bridge linking Crimea to Russia. The bridge was blown up by explosives on the bridge, resulting in casualties and injuries. The Russian Defense Ministry is calling today's drone attacks a, quote, mass revenge strike for the Crimea bridge explosion. For more on the stabbing of a Black Muslim woman, stay tuned. The Manitoba Islamic Association is calling for a, quote, fulsome investigation into last month's brutal stabbing of a Black Muslim girl in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The call comes after an 18-year-old was hospitalized on June 8th with traumatic injuries after being repeatedly stabbed. The authorities call the attack completely random and unprovoked. The incident occurred at an Olive Garden restaurant located in Winnipeg's northeast side. According to investigators, a man entered the restaurant around 7 p.m. and remained there as a customer for about an hour. Then, without any reason, the suspect approached the victim and began repeatedly stabbing her in the upper body, causing severe injuries. After the attack, he fled the scene on foot. Later, Winnipeg Police Service confirmed the suspect and the victim were not known to each other. They say the attack was entirely random and unprovoked. A spokesperson for Olive Garden confirmed that the injured person was an employee. The suspect was caught a few blocks away after a brief struggle with the police. He was found to be in possession of a knife at the time of his arrest. A US lawmaker has proposed that his government exchange two high-profile prisoners. One is imprisoned in the US, the other in Pakistan. The first is a Pakistani national, Afia Siddiqui, who is serving an 86-year prison sentence in Texas for the alleged attempted murder of a US soldier in Afghanistan. The second is Shakil Afridi, a Pakistani doctor who helped the CIA run a fake vaccination campaign to track down al-Qaeda head Osama bin Laden. In 2012, Afridi was sentenced to 33 years in prison in Pakistan for links to a banned militant group and not for helping the CIA. The sentence was later reduced to 10 years. During a hearing of the House Foreign Affairs Committee last week, Congressman Brad Sherman called Afridi the 24th team member of the US team who killed bin Laden 13 years ago in Pakistan's Abbottabad city. Sherman said Afridi doesn't have a US family or US fans to put pressure on the State Department to get him out. Deputy Assistant Secretary for Pakistan Elizabeth Horst said the US government was concerned about Afridi as he is innocent. Horst promised to look into a solution to bring Afridi in exchange for Siddiqui. Siddiqui, who did her PhD from Brandeis University, had gone missing in Pakistan in 2004. Along with her 3 minor children. She was accused of attacking a US soldier during interrogation in Afghanistan, an account dismissed by herself and her family. In 2010, she was sentenced to prison by a US court. And you can tune in tomorrow for a special extended interview with Dr. Afia Siddiqui's sister, Dr. Fawzia, about the efforts to bring Dr. Afia back to Pakistan. A Desjardins report says Canada should increase immigration to address its aging population. Desjardins is a Canadian financial cooperative and the largest federation of credit unions in North America. The study analyzes the necessary population growth among working-age Canadians to maintain the old age dependency ratio. The age dependency ratio measures how many people there are of working age compared to those over 65. The study shows that Canada should maintain a 2.2 annual working age growth rate up until 2040. It argues this is the only way to fund the tax base that will support the healthcare costs of Canada's aging population. Desjardins suggests that increasing immigration can enhance GDP per capita if newcomers continue finding jobs successfully. Last year, Canada's population grew by over 1 million, the fastest rate since 1957. The Liberal government plans to raise annual immigration targets to 500,000 by 2025. The idea of increasing immigration levels has drawn criticism from some political parties. Critics say immigration might discourage businesses from investing in technologies that enhance productivity. They also debate the country's capacity to handle more newcomers, especially since an increase in population leads to increased housing prices. Desjardins estimates a need for 100,000 additional housing units annually to reduce price pressures that result from higher permanent residence numbers. The Bank of Canada recognizes the effect of population growth on housing prices and inflation. High housing prices can reduce public support for immigration. Today is Nelson Mandela Day. South Africa's president says many years after his passing, Nelson Mandela's legacy continues to live on across the world. Speaking at the unveiling of a Mandela statue in Eastern Cape Province, President Cyril Ramaphosa said Mandela's contributions to South Africa are far from a modest one. Ramaphosa travelled to Mandela's rural home, where he unveiled 2 statues of the global icon as part of International Mandela Day, celebrated every year on July the 18th. The day was officially endorsed by the United Nations in 2009. It is meant to celebrate the global icon's birthday for his service to humanity. Millions of South Africans spared 67 minutes of their time doing acts of kindness in their communities to make the world a better place in honour of the late statesman. Mandela, who served as South Africa's first democratically elected president for 1 term from 1994 to 1999, taught the world to forgive, reconcile, and share with the less fortunate. He served 27 years in prison for opposing white minority rule in South Africa. However, when he took the highest office, he did not seek vengeance against his oppressors. Ordinary South Africans cleaned streets and donated blankets, jackets, sweaters, and other items to the less fortunate. Many South Africans call Mandela the father of the nation for resisting apartheid. Mandela, who died in December 2013, would have turned 100 years old today. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Sound Vision, which is a not-for-profit organisation. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.